This is episode 10, part 2 in our podcast, The Northern Powerhouse, and our interview with Dr. Deborah O'Neill, CEO of Novabiotics. This has been a fantastic discussion, and Ross and I have thoroughly enjoyed spending time with Deborah, gathering some deeper insights into her story and the background of biotech and medtech innovation in the northeast of Scotland. If you haven't yet caught up with the first part of this episode, you can find it as usual on our YouTube, Spotify and Apple podcast channels. Today, we're going to dive right back into the discussion and pick up at the transition in our chat from the biology and the deep science to the business behind it. We hope you enjoy.
Hey, welcome back to The Long Game. We are on a mission to demystify the science that shapes our lives and to unpack how great ideas built here in Scotland become real-world medicines, devices, and new companies at the cutting edge of life sciences. I'm Ross Kagan, Regis Professor of Precision Medicine at University of Glasgow.
And I'm Sandy Weir, Tech Innovation Leader and Strategic Program Manager, joining from Edinburgh. So Deborah, you probably figured out already, Ross handles the biology and the deep science, and I try and bring us back to bricks and the mortar and money. So Deborah, we've mentioned a few times that you're chair of one, and that's been instrumental in the delivery of something like £40 million into the BioHub facility that you've been creating up in the northeast. By the way, I love the architecture and the design, as well as the ethos of the innovative space and accelerating research. It really does tick all the boxes for Ross and I.
It's a stunning building, yeah.
Yeah, and it's anchored in within the Forest Hill Health Campus, and we know that that's one of the largest of its kind in Europe. And you're finding out what the infrastructure requirements are to support early stage spin-outs, scale-ups, in Aberdeen. And I understand that you've really been trying to focus on that sort of wet lab bottleneck. And we talked about this already, Ross, on the podcast. And It's really interesting to get your perspective on this, Deborah, and see what, that's like in different regions. So, please tell us about the challenges of delivering business innovation in this region and tell us about that sort of wet lab bottleneck that you've been experiencing there.
Absolutely. Again, as I said before, I wish that I guess it was the city region deal funding and the opportunity for Aberdeen and Aberdeenshire to move forward with that. Serene would then say, well, let's have a private sector catalyst as part of this regional economic partnership that's focused on our key local sectors. Wish that had happened 20 years ago and that bottleneck hadn't been there. So Novabiotics, we literally couldn't spin out physically because there was nowhere to go. The Rowett were fantastic in incubating us for a few months. We then moved to basically, business units, ironically on the science and technology part, but just business units, and only saw each other couple of times a week because the science team were deployed to other companies, both universities and back to the Rowett, wherever we could borrow, beg, steal some wet lab space. And that was a real issue. And then we moved to a farm. So we moved to the Graveston campus of SRUC. They had actually a great building that we could repurpose. It already had labs in it, so we could repurpose it as Category 2 labs. It was much more space than we needed. We ended up as landlords. We had sub-tenants in, and that worked for us. And then we ended up moving to an industrial estate. Again, BioHub was already on the cards, but it just wasn't going to be ready in time for us. So that's meant we've had to invest a lot more capital, a lot more time in actually running facilities, standalone, becoming a standalone business, as in running the facilities ourselves. Where you really just want to be able at an early stage and when you're spinning out just to focus on R&D, not have to worry about, building lab benches, installing autoclaves, all of that good stuff, which we had to do. And it's a great learning experience. It's great to be able to show investors that you know how to do that, but how much easier to be able to move into a bespoke, category 2 turnkey lab space building, focus on your R&D, deploy your investment in that and not in any infrastructure. So that's what's been missing in Aberdeen for such a long time, and has, been a real bottleneck for the amazing spin-outs and bio-entrepreneurs. But beyond the space, I think it's the support that's here for businesses, for founders. So whether that's MIT venture mentoring, one has run programs that have been cross-sector, but it's been great to see all the life science community be part of things like, intensive sessions on adopting AI into your business. And even the business fundamentals, not necessarily specific to your sector. Finance for founders, having networking sessions where we can connect, startups to IP attorneys. Being on the Forester Hill campus is really important as well for that triple helix environment, being able to connect our companies and our founders with the clinicians who they need to speak to, so they're not doing what they're doing, which you still can as a company, often too far into your development journey, speak to those clinicians about what's actually needed. So, connecting with NHS Grampian Innovation and just being a short walk over from, the IMS, the Rowett. So we're here, we're visible. Downstairs in this great building is collaboration space. It's very open, very welcoming. So it's all about those connections and building that network. So beyond the amazing, I would say bricks and mortar, but obviously you've seen it, lots of glass as well. What this means. So it's sort of the central core of the life science ecosystem, and absolutely in the right place for that.
Yeah, and it's been fantastic to have your insight in helping to shape that, because you've performed that lived experience of what it was like looking for the right facility, and now you're through that hub that you're able to offer those facilities to those startups that are coming afterwards, and that's how we sustain innovation. It's really important. And Deborah, I think that brings me to the sort of second point that I was really keen to make. And you've been really vocal about supporting the Northeast, particularly in the context of Scotland's economic strategy. And I think last summer, in the Our Future Scotland think tank report came out, I think you were suggesting that you need to look beyond predominantly Dundee, and that you should be thinking seriously about what's taking place in the north if you're looking at that strategic piece for the whole of Scotland. So don't forget about the north. So I'm thinking that, for investors and policymakers that might be listening today, can you really kind of make the case for Aberdeen in the Northeast? What is it that you're leveraging there in that region? And you made the point already that it's not just about transitioning and using the great learning and capabilities that were made up through the energy transition and that sort of whole complex management piece. What else is it that it brings to the life sciences sector that makes it so valuable?
I think the potential economic impact of the sector here and our businesses is absolutely enormous. We've got companies and founders here that are already looking beyond, to Ross's point early on, the science, and even maybe, I'll maybe get that far and then it's all about licensing out or selling on. These are founders with ambition to commercialize, to go even further. So we've got, businesses here, like Novabiotics, who, we've got products on the market already, or we've been able to take products all the way through to phase 3 trials for our, pneumonia compound. It's a sector that has that commercial nous as well, and has the elements that you absolutely need to take the best scientific innovation through to being a product and to commercialize it. And we've got some fantastic medtech businesses as well. One of our newest tenants in BioHub is a medical device business, actually decided to relocate from Glasgow because they love, the ecosystem here. There is a big focus on infectious disease up here. So this incredibly smart young bio-entrepreneur decided to move his business here. And I think it's that ambition, it's different. And I think that is part of, as I was saying before, it's marrying what's here anyway with the world-class science that we just need to translate more of it and get it onto that pathway. So it's the commercialization of innovation. And, I would say it's been interesting seeing we had the innovation strategy quite a while back now, but looking at the UK industrial strategy and sector plans that were initially quite focused on the UK and then went as far as Dundee, but even Dundee was shocked that we weren't mentioned, and all a made up Scottish golden triangle that just doesn't exist because we are collaborative, we're a super cluster. We need the stuff that's happening in the central belt, whether it's for manufacture of our products. And, we're great pals with Dundee, and I think have similar focus, but great complementarity, whether it's our biologics focus, which, we've still got some great expertise here in the Northeast versus small molecule drug discovery in Dundee. So it's focusing on the elements of the super cluster that have, I would say, been ignored, including what we're doing here in the Northeast. And, investing in that and seeing that huge potential that we have. And we already know that Opportunity Northeast has made an amazing contribution to the local economy and the wider Scottish economy, but more so in life science, where I think, things that frustrate us are, we've got an amazing university in University of Aberdeen that does incredibly well in securing research council funding. So that's a testament to the quality. If you look at, the league tables and how well it does versus other universities, that's a testament to the quality of the research that's going on. So why isn't that being translated with all the support that we have for businesses who are spinning the same science out into investment and, moving that forward? And, you need to keep those businesses here to be surrounded by the amazing clinical expertise, academic expertise, and the ideas engines that we still have in both universities, and just assist us taking it forward in, commercializing those fantastic elements of innovation, from therapeutics, diagnostics, devices.
Yeah, indeed.
Can I just,
sorry,
Sandy, I just wanted to very, very, very quickly just underline a couple of points. One is that, when you mentioned somebody coming up from Glasgow, and we smiled, but we're actually, I just want to say the obvious, we're not in competition with each other. When you win, we win. We're in competition with the US, to a lesser extent with England, if you want to talk about the Golden Triangle. But what we're all trying to build here is to let the world know that actually we have elite science here, which I think they actually know, but that we can translate that. That's the first point. And the second quick point is, but that second part has been slow. And so as an American who has spun out multiple companies over the years, I'm not unusual in the States, but here, when I showed up here, maybe a little less common.
Yeah.
That is changing, but that needs to change quicker. And Sandy, I think you'll agree, this is why we have one big reason why we have this podcast.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. And I was gonna make that sort of same similar point. The first one you made, I think, Deborah, summed it up really well in thinking about it as part of the super cluster and the fact that we're all really deeply connected.
Yeah.
And that's our superpower, right? That really is our superpower. And actually, that's going to be at the heart of the certainly the life sciences strategy, as I understand it as well. And maybe just to bring us home on this point, and we talked a little bit about the sort of the competition with England and the Golden Triangle, and we can see that the opportunities in the Northeast are really developing at quite an interesting macroeconomic moment in our time, and we see that the investment changes that took place down south, where Merck scrapped a 1 billion research hub in London, and we saw that AstraZeneca shrink back and shelved their 200 million expansion plans in Cambridge. And I guess the question is, how is that an opportunity for Aberdeen? How can we thrive in that sector, maybe capture some of that global investment that we've been losing as part of the changes that we've seen in the Golden Triangle?
Definitely. I think, we responded to that as, Opportunity Northeast Life Science on the basis of, well, look at what's happening and, don't think of a country as a whole, but in terms of investing in places specifically where you have that infrastructure. And, we always say, look at cost of living, the actual scope for space that you have here versus the Golden Triangle, the capacity that we have, an amazing, technical skilled workforce, plus just, again, the other sectors and the commercial focus and the entrepreneurial ecosystem that's here already. So absolutely, regions like the Northeast and others across the UK are necessarily overlooked. And for life science investments specifically, look beyond. So I think that education, that there are other regions that, and depending on, I guess, what the investment is for and the particular area of R&D or manufacturing, yes, look beyond the usual places that you just associate with life science in the UK, because there are many, many more, including, here in the Northeast. And a strong rationale for considering beyond the Golden Triangle when it's for investments.
Yeah, indeed. And Ross, we love this bold vision and the strong leadership that Deborah and her team are providing. And if anyone can execute this plan, it's the team up in Aberdeen. It really is truly inspiring, Deborah, and it's lovely to hear, that reflected in your comments today. And we can see that the city is transforming, and it's fantastic to see that industrial identity adapt. And we just say, bring it on. Yeah.
Absolutely. It's only the start, and we're excited about the impact that we know we can have, and what's to come over the next few years for the sector here.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And to put a point on that, Deborah, the work you're doing, both and with Novabiotics from 2004, and also the macroeconomic level with One Biohub, which I really strongly respect the fact that you take responsibility for helping that region and drive it forward. And this is exactly what we mean when we talk about playing the long game in Scotland. So we cannot thank you enough for sharing your thoughts on this. We know from our doing our homework that you are somebody who has really been very thoughtful on these points, and we've been very excited to bring you on here. So thank you very much for all of these points. What do you think, Sandy?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I couldn't, all the points you've just made, just Ross, have really resonate with me as well. But before we go, we end every episode of The Long Game by stepping away from the heavy science and the regional economics and the burdens of our day job. It's time for that closing segment, Ross, and a wee bit of joy.
So, Deborah, as our guest, we will let you go first. And I think you were a little bit excited about this, which brings me a wee bit of joy. What brings you a wee bit of joy this week? What do you think?
It's spring. It's seasonal. Spring has hit me this year more than it ever has. And I think just with the hard winter that we've had and the slightly odd weather, I had a very good friend, a university friend, up last weekend. So we were kind of out and about doing the very Aberdeenshire things, went to Craigivar, so it's at the Walt Disney Castle. And it it's pink, and it looks even pinker in spring. But the daffodils were still out. But at home over the last 2 days, I planted some tulip bulbs for the first time in one particular bed last year. It's a bit of guesswork. You pick the colours, you never really know. And this is a hangover from Ghent, by the way, because the flower market that used to be right by the apartment that I lived in had the most amazing bulb merchants that would come down from the Netherlands. So planted these bulbs. They have come up. They look absolutely amazing, but my cherry blossoms out early. So I can't remember a year where some of the daffodils are still hanging on. Bluebells are just starting to come out. You got the blossom, my new tulips. So it just looks amazing. And with this weather as well, I've just kind of been thinking, spring, it's a big thing when you live in the northeast of Scotland if you've had a tough winter. But it's just, it's given me joy in a way that it never has. And it's just landed with a capital S this year, and it just looks amazing. So I've become quite romantic seasonally over the last few days.
I love it.
So that's been my joy over the last week or so.
I love it. Sandy, what do you think? What's your wee bit of joy?
Yeah,
have you planted any bulbs?
And have you planted any bulbs?
My bulbs aren't showing at the moment, so I don't know what. But we've got very active squirrels around here, I'm afraid.
Digging.
Exactly. My wee bit of joy this week, Ross. I've been, really a big fan of the Film House in Edinburgh ever since I was a student. And Helen and I used to go there regularly to watch films, classic, I guess what we would call world cinema, films like Delicatessen, Cyrano de Bergerac, Les Enfants du Paradis, Cinema Paradis. So I could go on a while. Well, lots of them were French, and I can't speak a word of French. Thank goodness for subtitles.
It's good you put that in.
Yeah, exactly. But we came very close to losing this great institution back in 2022, and we all got a real fright at that time, those of us that are big fans of it. But I've been amazed at what a group of former employees have done. We like to support entrepreneurial spirit in this podcast, and it's great. They formed a charity, they funded a refurbishment, they brought it back last year. And as part of my wife Helen and I's commitment to this, because we really love it, we've got a membership there, and we go along regularly. And I had a great fun at the weekend because we went along to see a movie. I didn't know much about it. It's called Father, Mother, Sister, Brother, or Brother, Sister. I can't quite remember. We'll throw up a still, and it's a comedy, but it's very art house. But you just take your chance. You go along. You have a little bit of something to eat, a couple of drinks, and then you enjoy your movie. And classic Film House. It was a small cinema. It was only about 14, 15 people, and you sit down and you don't quite know what you're getting, but it was a really enjoyable watch. It was very quirky, lots of laughs, particularly in the first third of the movie where they're exploring the sort of father's story. But yeah, I recommend it to you. If you're ever in town and you've got spare time, go and check out the Film House.
Brilliant.
That sounds amazing. Yeah. We try to play up a little tension between Edinburgh and Glasgow, but actually
we do.
Come on,
Ross,
again, we're collaborating.
Don't go there, Deborah.
No.
We could put Aberdeen on the rack as well.
Yeah, we can start poking fun at the Northeast as well. Yeah, and Ross, what's been exciting for you this week?
Yeah, so sometimes I do heartwarming things, including trips over to Edinburgh, but not today, Deborah. You are a self-described history buff, and so I dedicate this to you. A truly brilliant piece of creative problem solving. So we have genuinely, I mean this from the heart, what you've been doing there with Novabiotics is absolutely brilliant. So here is something in respect to that. So back in 1985, in Washington, D.C., U.S. Marshals Service, they had a problem. They had hundreds of fugitives that they could not track down. So instead of chasing them, and this is a metaphor, but this is a true story, which would have been a poor use of resources. They invited these fugitives to a party. Okay? So they created a fake TV company, complete with official-looking letters, sent out hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of invitations to fugitives. And the hook was you get free tickets to an NFL game. I think it was a Washington Redskins Cincinnati Bengals game, which if you're an American means something to you. Plus, if you show up, you have a chance to win a trip to the Super Bowl. Okay? And if you're out there is lying low, this seems pretty irresistible. And apparently it was. So over 100 fugitives showed up at the Washington Convention Center, dressed up, excited. Some brought friends. They were greeted by what looked like event staff, but the staff were actually undercover officers who were dressed up in Playboy bunny suits and just everything. Okay, they had refreshments there, lots of chatter. Everyone's having a great time. And then a banner drops that says, "You are arrested." The officers moved in. And just like that, they arrested over 100 fugitives in a single sweep.
That's
so, of course,
incredible.
Isn't that brilliant?
It's absolutely fantastic.
So this is my Novabiotic equivalent. And some thought, of course, it was a joke at first until the handcuffs came out. And then that's when it really landed.
Yeah, that wasn't just part of the party. Oh, my goodness.
I know. No. And they actually arrested, I mean, we're talking murders, rapists, assault, all of this, and in one sweep, over 100 fugitives scooped up. So, Deborah and Sandy, sometimes I have this, I'm going to make this into a moral. Sometimes the smart move is not to chase the problem, but to get the problem to come to you.
Ooh,
So that's innovation.
like
Ross.
it.
Yeah, that's
Strong
my wee bit of
finish.
joy that I learned this week. And some random conversation with somebody. So, which brings us to the end of today's episode. Deborah, honestly, a massive thank you. You're absolutely amazing. And if anybody wants to learn more about the fight against these superbugs or the future of Northeast economy, just look up Novabiotics and the One Biohub. And of course, a shout out to you, Deborah.
Thank you so much. It's been an absolute pleasure. Great to meet you both.
Yeah. Sandy, what do you think?
Thank you so much for your time this afternoon, Deborah. It's been a pleasure to speak to you. And I guess wrapping up and putting a bow on this podcast, next week we'll be back for the second of our 2-part series on AI in healthcare. But until then, it's time to wrap up and keep the heat, as you've been saying at the end of these podcasts, Ross. Very Scottish expression.
I'm learning.
And most importantly, keep playing the long game.
Yeah, see the vision clear. We're here to run the long game. Blueprint set, no fear. Playing out the long game, the long game.